Hello everybody, FewCandy here and welcome back to Philadelphia. We've been away for a couple of weeks, but we are back and we're in the swing of things. We're going to be working on some farmland today, as I'd mentioned previously, to try and help our little production chain. So let's just start by taking a look at what the situation is. So with food, we have got a reasonable amount of grain demand, or a deficit at the moment at least. We also need some livestock, a tiny bit of vegetables and a tiny bit of cotton too. So I'm going to be aiming to add in all four of those, with grain kind of being the main focus, I would say, for this, so we can help to balance out some of the deficits that we have here. In terms of the production from our actual industry buildings, we're not really doing too bad. We haven't got any beverages being made, which is kind of odd. I don't know why that's happened. But we do have a decent amount of surplus on things like food and convenience food, also textiles, clothes as well. There's a little bit of a deficit actually on normal food as well as the beverages, so maybe a little bit of industry is needed. I'm not sure if we'll come on to that today to convert our farmyard products into actual goods that can be sold in our commercial shops as well, to kind of complete that production chain. But if we take a look, we're earning about 6,500 an hour at the moment. A lot of that thanks to our big power plant that we put in last time over there. Exporting that power has brought in a big boost. It's increasing a little bit. It's kind of between 6,500 and 7,000 an hour. So we'll see actually what happens when we put in the farmland, because if my understanding of the game is correct, then it would mean that our industry would have less costs because they're importing the goods locally, so the raw farmyard goods locally, as opposed to bringing them in from outside of the city. So they'll have less costs, be able to make more profit, and then the goods should translate into commercial a little bit easier as well. So it should help to increase how much we're making. And that's shot up to 8,000 in fact an hour now. So there's a decent amount of fluctuation. But anyway, the plan for this is to head out over into this area here. If we look at the map, and this is how it's come, I haven't touched these raw resources, there is a really strong amount of fertile land over this way. So we can definitely be putting our grain and vegetable farms over here. Livestock farms actually don't need the fertile land, so that's less important, but I think I am going to put them all within the same area. I think this would be nice to have some nice farmlands along the little river bend here, with maybe a little village of some description as well. We could even think about local transit, maybe a train stop somewhere along here. I don't think that's going to happen today, but that is a consideration for future development. In terms of how people are actually going to get to this, that's what I want to work on first. So we have this sort of semi-main local road. It's not really a collector because there's a lot of junctions off it, but it's a pretty main road that flows out into this valley area and through down onto our main collector, our main kind of high street area flowing through Few Haven there. So I'd like to extend this, I think, on up around this hillside, so we can have some more junctions going up into housing or whatever we want to do up here. Bring this sort of across here and down this slope so that it connects into the farmland this side. We'll almost certainly have a local road coming around this way as well to add another connection. And then I'm also thinking possibly a highway interchange here, just a very small sort of local one that can then also bring a decent faster connection across the river this way and on into these sort of plateaus that we've got around the river up here, which I definitely think would be nice for some future development. So that's the general plan. So before we start putting in the farmyards, let's focus on this mountainside local road and getting this one in to start off with. So let's get contour lines on for this. We're going to want to follow them pretty closely. We may have to do a bit of terrain work and flattening to make this sit in nicely, but we'll give it a go. Now we've placed those in a somewhat sensible fashion, at least. I think kind of the grades aren't too severe. It's what you'd probably expect for a mountainside road. I don't think it's anything too hairy for trucks and such like to go over. So let's work on this intersection now, because I think that's an important connectivity point to have direct access from our farmlands around here onto the highway so they can go a fast route straight through into the main kind of industrial areas of Few Haven over here. We also definitely want to collect up the collectors from this side into the other side of this intersection so they've got routes through into whatever infrastructure we decide to put over this side of the river as well. So I think this is probably going to be quite a major highway intersection. I'm thinking we'll probably have another one there with a slightly larger town on this little slip in this corner here, but again, that's later development, not for right now. So I think we're going to use local highway roads for this. That's kind of what I've used over the mountainside as well. So if we just drop it down by 10 meters, we'll get our retaining road wall, and it's relatively flat at this point. So I think we can bring this across quite nicely like so. We'll go underneath the rail and also the highway here too. We also want to upgrade these sections to bridges. So let's just put in a couple of little markers to signify where that's going to go. And actually that's automatically done that quite nicely there. I know that needed a tiny bit of manual fiddling, and we do then also just need to, let's lower the strength of this right down, just reduce the terrain height there to get rid of that little clipping. Some of this looks pretty ugly, so let's maybe just flatten this out a touch like that, then we can smooth off these edges just so that middle section at least looks a little bit more sensible. We'll tidy it all up once we've done it and put everything in. But then, of course, I also want to get in the highway slip road. So we're just going to do a super simple connection for this and come down like so. And then exactly the same thing this other side. And this bit's definitely going to want smoothing up. We'll sort that out a little bit later. And then we'll mirror this the other side as well. Now it looks absolutely all kinds of awful. So we just really want to sort this out. I'm thinking what I'll actually do is lower the terrain all around this intersection bit and just have tunnel ways heading on through underneath the highway and underneath the rail over this side as well. Okay, I'm going to tidy that up a little bit more in the detailing time lapse later because it looked ridiculously wonky. I haven't even attempted to do this side, in fact. But I'm just using slope tool here to try and like push down the landscape so it's a little bit more kind of sensible coming into these junctions like so. Like I don't mind a little bit of retaining wall around it, but we want it to look a little bit smoother and more sensible, more man-made than what it's currently kind of showing. So yes, something along those lines. We obviously now need to bring this road up here too, so let's go ahead and do that, and we'll just bring it up in a nice straight road. So let's drop it down 10 meters so we can snap nicely into there, and then we'll bring it back up to surface level like so. So yeah, lots of tidying up to do around that absolutely dodgy looking intersection. I'll come back to that. We also want to bring it up this side, of course, so let's go ahead and do that. Try and get a reasonable grade on that before we head on over the river this side like so. So yeah, let's try and ignore the intersection for the moment. But I really want to come on to the farms, so let's go ahead and do that. So we have got gravel roads, and I definitely think like using these around the farmland would be super cool. Also some alley roads, just so that it feels nice and rural and kind of nice and compact. So I'm thinking I'm going to use this space here for quite a large sort of farmyard area. So let's bring off a junction here like so. And then I'm thinking we'll bring it straight out and into the farmyard area, which is going to sit here really nicely up against the highway, I think, as well. Now I'm conscious that I may upgrade this highway into separated routes, so 2 or 3 lanes on each side. Just because when we start to put in the downtown over here, I think we'll have an influx of traffic and the main intersection will be down this side. So I think this piece of the highway will become busier and could do probably with being a highway that can take a little bit more traffic than what it currently can. So again, we'll come back to that another time because we're not yet ready as a city as a whole with only less than 11,000 population to start upgrading our highways like that. So I think we'll go ahead and build the farm, but be conscious that we need to leave a little bit of a gap here in case we do decide to upgrade that highway. So in terms of the farmyard, I'd like to put in some custom assets to make this feel like a larger farmyard, and then we'll have some smaller farm buildings. Obviously, we can't avoid, unfortunately, when we put these in, having that main farm building. So that's going to end up being part of the farmyard in this case, and that is unfortunately just unavoidable. So yeah, we're going to go for a livestock farm over here, and we want to kind of wrap the fields around the farmyard a bit. So I may shape this when we start to change some of the buildings, but with the livestock, I also don't want to go too big with this. Like, I'm very conscious of those massive buildings spawning in. So we're going to do a little bit of trial and error here. We'll bring the field right up to the road over that side. And I think a little bit further over here too, something like that, so we get some slightly more interesting shapes. And hopefully with any luck, we won't get any massive buildings spawning right in the middle of that one. Now, with the fact that all of these fields look the same as well, I am going to intermingle them with surfaces, which will be non-functional, of course. But I definitely want some variation within our farmyards. I don't want everything looking all exactly the same, because it just doesn't look realistic to me. If you pass by farmyards, not all of the fields are in the same state of ploughing, for example, which is what these very much look like. So we will be fleshing out the main area with kind of non-functional decorative parts to it. So now grain is the main thing that we need. So I'm actually going to stick this up on the hillside over here. We'll worry about the terrain and things in just a second. We're going to make this into an absolutely massive field. And again, I'm going to divide it up so that we haven't got it. It's not going to be all the same texture, but I think this one can, in particular, be quite large. So we'll follow again the road round here a little bit. We'll create a bit more variation in what we're doing. I'm going to stick within the circle rather than using Anarchy to go outside of it. And we'll just keep coming around like this. Now, the beauty with the grain farms is, of course, we're not going to get all of that weird random buildings spawning in the middle of it. So I think that's going to be... So that's why I'm going for a huge one over here, and hopefully that'll give a bit more production with that too. We also need vegetables in. So I'm thinking, let's just check the fertile land. We still have quite a bit out here, and actually I'm realising that grain farm is going over it a little bit. So let's just use our mod here to paint in a little bit more fertile land. So we'll go up to 100% strength. Why not? Make this a little bit larger, and we'll just paint it in all around our grain farm here, just to make sure that that is going to be as productive and as functional as we can possibly get it. We'll just check the map here, and yes, that's worked a treat, even if it is blinding us in the process. So then, yes, vegetable farms. Let's add in one of these over here. And again, I'm kind of thinking maybe with this one, actually, we do something a little bit different and bring the farmhouse almost up against the road. So if we put in a road like this, again, I may reshape these with time, and then we can put the field out here. Again, vegetable farming is one where we are going to get some random buildings spawning if we make it large enough. You see already we have this one in the farmyard field. So I think what we can do is try and create a bit of access to it by using better Bulldozer from the main farmyard that will sit here, so that it doesn't look so out of place sitting in the middle of the field like that. And then same with these vegetable farms over here. We'll just have to make sure that the fields aren't so big, or potentially like more of an interesting shape as well, so we can cut into it a little bit. So we could even go like this, for example. Maybe there's some trees or berry farming going on in that place. Again, we can come onto that in the detailing, and that's just going to break up the area just a little bit to make sure some of those buildings don't come in. Now, I'm conscious as well, we need sewage and power over here. Of course, we've used highway roads here, which don't have the pipes under the road and don't have the power facility as well. So let's actually go into Road Builder, and we're going to adjust this. So we're going to say that we're going to allow underground water and sewage pipes, and supports underground electricity cables. Well, that's very nice. We could also support zoning here as well, actually, which might be helpful. And we're not going to change the lanes a bit. I'm fine with that. Pedestrians can still walk on the outside of it. I don't think we need like a raised pavement out in this rural part of town. So if we do this, we can then call it local highway with water and power. Then we'll come into our created roads, find this one, and then we're going to upgrade this entire system to this so that we can connect nicely into the city up this way and get into those power networks. Okay, so we have now got that working with power. Actually, I realised, of course, I would actually need to put street lights on them for the power to carry. I don't really want to do that over the mountain, so I've actually just done some underground power lines from the rest of the city to connect them up. And you can see here, we have got an annoying greenhouse in the middle of the field. So I think with this, what I'm actually going to do is just adjust this in a little bit here. Yeah, we're still going to get them, aren't we? It's going to find a way to give us a greenhouse no matter what we do. So I guess it's like really about being, is it in the right place? If we move these back now, yeah, one might have disappeared from here. This one's not great, so let's scoot this in. I've got one in the middle there. I just wish there was something we could do about this because, yeah, better Bulldozer doesn't enable us to remove these random buildings right now, and it's one of my biggest bugbears with the game. So again, I think with this, we'll probably just have to get creative about how we detail up towards the greenhouse, maybe actually add in extra greenhouses over here, which is totally possible. So if we go to find it, search for greenhouse, you'll find, you see we've got the agricultural extractor buildings, which are the ones that randomly spawn in place here. So if we turn off snapping to road, what we can do is actually fit in a few more of these greenhouses up next to this one, so that then we can come in with some detailing and actually create a bit of an area out of it and a bit of a feature out of it, rather than it being so insanely random in the middle of the field there. The trouble is we're on a slope here, so I think no matter what we do, unfortunately, it's going to look a little bit odd. So let's just place one in the middle there. We can see if we can get it sort of tiered. I guess that's not too bad, but the ground is very dodgy indeed. Let's turn down the strength of this. We don't want to go too heavy on it. We'll just do a little bit of softening here. Maybe a little bit of drawing this out to this level. And yeah, that's not worked at all. We definitely don't want to do that, so we'll just smooth it out a touch. I think what we will do is just draw it back around the edge of this building a little bit, and then we can smooth it out so it's slightly less of a severe kind of slope going out of our main farm building here. But yeah, we'll come back with more detailing and flesh this out in a little bit. But I think definitely I quite like some more greenhouses around this area, so let's add in a couple more into here and see what we can do with these. So I think, yeah, a large greenhouse right next to it isn't too bad. We may move those around in the detailing a little bit. Definitely challenging with the slope on this particular farm. Would be more beneficial to put the vegetable farms on flat land, but never mind. So if we come into production, so let's just have a little look at how we're doing now. So actually livestock, we still need a bit more. We've got a huge surplus on vegetables and grain, and we need a tiny bit of cotton as well. So let's go back to the livestock farms. And I'm thinking potentially down this end we could do another little one. So let's get our gravel road again. We'll bring out just a very simple intersection up here. And then I'm thinking maybe we could sort of put it up on the hillside over here. So let's actually, before we do this, let's clear out these trees so that we can see what we're doing. We've got some interesting kind of divots in the land here as well, so I'm wondering if maybe we could turn one of those into a sort of drainage ditch amongst the farmland, something along those lines. So let's have quite a long driveway into this one, and we'll bring it up around about over here, sort of next to that ditch. Now that looks absolutely, yeah, we're not going to be putting a farm on that, that's for sure. So let's flatten off this area just a tiny bit. Create ourselves a little bit of a pocket of land where we can put our actual farmhouse, which is going to be nice and flat. Then let's grab our livestock farm and we'll place it in here. Now again, yeah, we're going to have to do a little bit of work with the landscape here just to make sure that that's not super insanely dodgy. And already I've got rid of that sort of ditch area that I was mentioning could potentially be a drainage ditch, which would be nice. I think we will place some of those in elsewhere. But for now, let's concentrate on trying to get this farm in a sensible manner. So yeah, let's draw out these nodes. And again, I'm going to make this into a slightly odd kind of shape and pattern so that we can avoid any of the huge, large buildings spawning into this. And we'll bring it up relatively close to the highway, and then we're going to follow this road round as well. This is ending up relatively big though, so we're probably going to have buildings spawn in this. But again, we'll see how we go. I'm not a super massive fan of that shape. Perhaps actually we add in a little bit of an extra bit here, sort of similar to what we did in the vegetable farms, and bring it round maybe where some trees sit or some foliage undergrowth that the farmers wanted to leave. Maybe it's some fruit trees, for example, something like that might be quite nice in this space. And we do have a really nice, huge building in the middle of our field. Wonderful, wonderful. If anyone can bring out a mod to sort that or knows of a mod in existence that means that we can remove or change these buildings, please, please, for the love of God, let me know. So that we can do something about that, because I can't stand it. I just want to be able to place them myself. I wouldn't mind if it was at the edge of the field. It's just so random in the middle of this random grassy patch. Okay, so that's some more livestock. We do want to get the electricity connection in, so let's just hook this into this road here, so that'll be functional, hopefully, which it is now. And then let's go back to production and just have a little check if we do have enough. So we haven't got a huge amount of surplus on the livestock, and of course we do also want the cotton farms in here as well, so I will come on to that. So potentially another livestock farm could be beneficial somewhere. So let's actually do one right up next to the highway this side. So we'll bring out a road like that, and then I think we'll go kind of straight along here, and then we can curve this back in on itself like so. And then we'll grab our livestock farm and we'll just place in a very, very small area around this side. Again, I'll bring it up next to the road because I think that's quite nice when you're traveling along a road like this to see the different variations in the fields kind of running by, or trees or that sort of thing. And of course all of these empty spaces in between are going to be filled out with some tree or bush lines, also some surface texture fields that will be non-functional like I mentioned as well, to make it feel like a much grander, much bigger farmland than it actually is. Now cotton as well is another one that doesn't have those horrible random buildings spawning in it, so I think let's go ahead, we'll get our highway with our pipes underneath it, and we'll bring out this connection a little bit further this way. Bring it out pretty straight. And I think actually we could sit in a cotton farm quite nicely next to this intersection potentially. So again, let's grab our gravel road as we have been using, and I'm going to put the cotton farm, I'm going to put a slight bend in it, why not? And we'll put the cotton farm pretty much right in the middle here. And then we can spread the actual farmland out around it. So yeah, something along those lines. I'm noticing they don't have sewage, so yeah, we do need to still upgrade this section of the highway. Okay, so we've got that in. Let's have a quick check of production. I definitely think we could do with another livestock farm because that is low. I mean, we're almost double the amount of production to what we actually need. I guess actually a lot more. So maybe that's okay for the time being, but we have got a lot more of the other resources in here as opposed to livestock. So I'll probably add in one more small one somewhere when I come to sort of do the detailing and finish off the build. But the other thing I want to do around here is create some sort of local residences. So you will notice when I created this road, I also added zoning to it as well. And that is because we can then come in and place some smaller housing, I think, alongside this road. So I'm thinking like no more than a lot depth of maybe 4. We'll go for low density, probably European style, like these sort of houses maybe with the double pitched roofs. Like that's sort of quite a nice little farmyard looking one. So I think we can place some of these alongside this national highway, but also then come in and add some offshoot roads. So we'll go for the alleyway road because it's nice and sort of rural-ish looking. And again, the slope is going to be a bit of an enemy to us here, but I think we'll be able to manage. Then we can come back in to find it, and let's find another nice little house out here. I'm thinking some quite nice looking country houses would be appropriate for this. Nothing super modern like that one. But yeah, more this style of building, more that style of asset. So I want to sort the terrain out there. Again, we'll come back and do that. But we just want a few of these houses dotted along this road. So we can have some smaller ones in here as well, make it a little bit more village-like. We could even go for some narrow ones too, so that they're slightly smaller. But we just want to have a few residences dotted around, very sort of spread out and sparse, so that it's nice and rural, but maybe they're the local people that live out around the farmlands. Some of the richer people potentially in some of those slightly nicer, fancier looking houses, or people that work in the farms around here too. Now the other thing I do want to think about is the signature building, the dairy house, which we haven't unlocked yet because we need something like 10 different farmlands, which, to be fair, we're probably not too far off at this point. So I'm thinking maybe we add this in as part of the larger farmyard over here. So if I just actually come away from this, we'll search for dairy. Here is the dairy house, and it's a massive build. It's a massive building. And I also think it needs a bit of bobbing and a bit of work around it. But I think that would be pretty cool as part of our larger farmyard over here. So let's go back to our alley roads that we've got in this one, and we'll draw this across nice and straight there. So delete off that section. We'll come back in, and yeah, because we do have find it, we do have the ability to place this before actually needing to. So if we place it like that, slightly over the field, just so we've got that tiny gap to the highway in case we need an upgrade or anything like that here. Let's actually trim back this road because that looked super duper odd. We can bring it like that. We do need to bring power in, so we will do that, of course, too. I'm just thinking then, could we come back to this field and potentially adjust it over? Actually, it's got rid of... Oh no, now we've got a wonky shed. Now we've got a wonky shed in there. Wonderful. We'll do some decorating around that, and hopefully that will end up making a little bit more sense than it currently does right now. I think having the big dairy house in here, we can do some better bulldozing around it to help it sit in a little better. Maybe extend out this back part into more of a field so it hasn't got that sort of awkward surfaces around it. And I think it will blend in pretty nicely. Now it does need vegetables and livestock, and it's going to make food, which was something we were low on the production for before. So I think we're definitely, yeah, I can see that chopping down rapidly and the livestock here. So it's eating into our production already. So we definitely want some more fields of that in. We come down to here and we go to food. Yeah, we are now in a surplus. So that has sorted us out there. Also, beverages seem to have fixed themselves as well, which is wonderful. We're actually pretty much in a surplus of almost everything, which is pretty good actually. So as always, I'm left with something that looks absolutely hideous. I'm quaking in my boots to worry about how we're going to turn this into some actual sensible, semi-realistic looking farmland. But as always, we're going to dive into a detailing time lapse, and hopefully we'll be back with a much nicer looking build.
might be the one that truly got me. I feel it too. You might be the one that truly got me. I feel it too. I feel it too. You might be the one that truly got me. I feel it too. You might be the one that truly got me. I feel it too. You might be the one that truly got me. I feel it too. I feel it too. You might be the one that truly got me. I feel it too.
So here we have our massive farmland, and I'm actually really pleased with how it's come out overall, considering where we were before this detailing time lapse. I'm pretty pleased. So I've done quite a lot of work around the intersection here, just used some of Sully's patchy sand surface to give it a bit more texture and variation, have finally got rid of those retaining walls. They just didn't work, so I've kept them for the tunnels going underneath the train line and underneath the highway section, but otherwise looks a hell of a lot better, I think, now. There's still little tiny bits of jank, but it's quite a compact intersection, so in general I'm pretty pleased. And in particular, I love this view as you come up this road and you see these big rolling hillsides, a few little trees dotted around, there's even cows over there. You can start to see some of the sort of silos in the background up there as well. Like, I'm really, really loving this view in particular, particularly the cliffs in the background, the trees up the top as well. And oh my goodness, I spent so long hand placing all of these trees around this whole area, so even on top of this cliff here, because I just don't like how the brush works. I think if it's larger areas, I probably should have used it up here, then it would be fine, but for these smaller areas I like to have a little bit of better control ultimately. So all along the highways, and this highway running through the farmland is probably going to be one of my most detailed road builds, I think, because I've done the entire stretch of it And in particular, I'm loving how you kind of come up against fields directly next to the highway, and then others with a bit more gap, others where there's a bit of overgrowth in it, up to, I'm going to call this like a little like strawberry field, pick your own type place, although it's not wholly manned for that, but definitely some kind of produce field. Done a little gateway here with a slightly different colour fence and a little entranceway sort of gravelled over, rocked over there. So yeah, very, very pleased with the aesthetics of some of the elements, particularly up next to the highway road. We've obviously got our houses in dotted around as well. I put in a few more down here and also placed in a token gas station. Definitely would like to see a gas station somewhere near this intersection to serve the people around here. I think that would be pretty realistic as a whole. And then yeah, I've added in spawners for, like, we've got a cow field here, we've got a chicken field here. The annoying thing is they all walk like they're completely obsessed and zombie chickens towards one direction. You see these guys, one direction. It's kind of disturbing. Same with these cows up here. I'm actually not sure, I must have put in an accidental spawner, I think, somewhere over there. But I used the little kids' play houses to sort of symbolise a couple of hen houses for this area. I'm not sure if it works or not, but I was trying to get a little bit more creative with those. And then, yeah, lots of decals all around the farmyards, like we've done the roofs in a lot of them as well, dirtied those up in the silos, yeah, all around it. So pretty pleased with that. Really like how the surfaces interact with each other actually, like the different colours and the different textures. I think it's come together pretty nicely. We've also, along the similar vein as the chickens, got some pigs over here. And I originally put in a big mud surface, but I felt like it was too much, so we've now got this dirty, decaled grass surface, which I'm pretty pleased with. For some reason I've got some horses there. Not sure about that. But yeah, for the pigs, I actually sunk some greenhouses down into the ground. I'm not really sure if this works, but it was the best thing I could find to kind of symbolise little pig houses, those sort of metal shelters that you find for pigs. So yeah, that is what that is. A little bit odd to say the least. We've also got a gate in over here up this gravel track towards the vegetable farm. This side, again, some more fields put in. We've also got extensive apple tree fields up here, all surrounding the highway as you come down the cliff, which again, pretty pleased with that kind of dynamic and how that looks overall. Now with the vegetable farm, I did just surface over the area where we've got the greenhouses. It looks pants. Like, I'm not pleased with how these greenhouses look. This one's not too bad, but these are a bit weird. But it's kind of the best situation that I could find to overcome that. We do have a random greenhouse here, but thankfully it's not right in the middle of the field and it's not huge, so it's not too obvious in that case. And then over here, for example, where we've had that's a chicken house spawning in the middle of the field, I've actually just used surfaces and some trees to make it feel like it's actually an extension to the farmyard rather than looking so random. More fields as we come up here, and I really love this dynamic up against the highway here as well. So it's the same as the internal road. You get this differentiation of going right past fields, being able to look up to those cliffs across the houses there, and then going into more wooded, more dense areas as you come along. And you've got things like the silos in view as well. Same goes for up here. We've just done a little gravel track to signify where tractors could come in through the gate and drive up to this cow shed, whatever it is in the middle of the field there. Hasn't ended up too bad actually. The spawning of buildings has not been horrific. We've got another one over here where I've done the same thing. Just covered up some of that backfield with some trees there and extended on out to the farmyard with a little gate into the main field. Really like this bit where I've added in a few extra buildings. We've got the cow shed, some silos, a barn, another sort of decorative industrial bit here, kind of signifying milk tanks or something like that. And then of course we've got the big dairy, and this is actually working super duper well. So we click on it, we've got a full set of employees. It's at 96% efficiency, only because our mail handling is rubbish, and the network quality as well. Does that mean the road? I'm guessing so. We don't have any road maintenance in. But if we take a little look at production chains now, so firstly budget actually, we're making almost 16 grand an hour, and it has actually been over 16 grand when I've looked at it on occasion. So we've essentially doubled the money that we've made by putting in a load of farms, the dairy, and a few houses. So the houses can't be contributing much because there's not very many of them, but we must be making more money because we're making all of these agricultural products locally. And of course the dairy makes food. So when we come in here, we're in a surplus of everything, which is exactly what I wanted. We come down here to food, which we were actually in a deficit of before, we're making an absolute ton of it. So no one's going hungry in Philadelphia. Interestingly, our beverage factory, which must have spawned in at some point, has now disappeared, so we're back at a deficit for beverages. But food-wise, we're absolutely fine. So yeah, bringing in a ton more cash, replacing these farms, and in particular, I think the dairy as well, because the production on that is going to be super high. So that's going to fuel us pretty nicely for some more expansion. Of course, we really need the college, so we're going to need to get our budget up. I've spent a lot of money on trees and roads in this particular episode. So we'll let that build up. We'll get a college in. We'll expand out a neighbourhood into here as well. I'm thinking an out-of-town shopping district would be quite nice there. And then, yeah, a whole ton more expansion, of course, to come. And we also need to finish off this area, like this side of the river. I'm thinking going into a small village town on this particular bend with a railway station, a little bit of better connectivity, probably some more farms as and when we need them out this side. But let me know your thoughts on that. What would you like to see in this area, particularly this section here? Do we extend the farmland out this side or do something a bit different with it? Maybe it's a forest, maybe it's forestry industry, woodland, let me know. But yeah, we've got our first patch of farmland in, and yeah, super duper pleased with it, particularly actually building on this kind of wonky terrain, like looking across here and seeing this farmhouse slightly raised with the silo. You look over there, you've got silos raised up, you've got these fruit trees going up the hills, this big rolling grain field over here. Really, really loving the dynamics of sinking this into this little kind of valley area next to the big cliffs on the top there. Very, very pleased with it. But for today, that is going to be it. If you have enjoyed the video, likes, comments and shares are greatly appreciated. And if you're new to Cities Skylines 2 and want to check it out, don't forget to check out my instant gaming link in the description below for massive discounts on a whole variety of games, including Cities Skylines 2. And while you wait for new content, check out one of the videos on screen, but that is all from me for now. I'll catch you again next time. Bye bye.